one just because. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Pause that shit. There we go. Okay, let's get back to this little truth crime story.
Kicking June in the face out of frustration.
Well,
why won't he die?
Fucking die.
Then eventually, he slumps forward.
Oh my god! Of course, it fell.
Actually leave June
Just
there
hang
that
upside
night and
down.
Come back the next day to gouge out his eyes,
that?
drink his blood, and decapitate
Oh my
him,
god.
and just take
Gouge
his
out his eyes. Decapitate
But
him.
it still wasn't enough.
All that weird
Shinichiro
shit.
said, the fact that I was able to kill
Jesus.
June, to control June, to make June my own was immensely satisfying. It
To
had taken
make
such a long time to
June
kill him,
his
so I had
own.
much more
What a
satisfaction
fucking
from being
creep.
able to see it through.
There you go.
Does she still not believe that her son did it?
This is rough.
Why June? Why would you kill
Ooh,
your little
look at
brother's
that.
friend? Because the more beautiful June was, the more pure June was, the more I felt I was being shown my ugliness and filth. The exact opposite, as if I was looking into a mirror every time I looked into his cute little eyes. Compared to him, my existence is so ugly. I wanted to kill the disgusting reflection of myself in his innocent little eyes.
Yikes.
I don't know. He's like...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just a sadist. I think that he genuinely
A
wants
sadist
to have
for sure.
I don't want to say eloquent because it's not eloquent, but
It's
more
definitely
of
a
a deeper
sadist.
reasoning for these things that put him in
Just
a
wants
light
to hurt
of this complex character,
people.
when in reality, he's just a sadist.
Am I Jacob with
Shinichiro
my
said that he had
with my
very
6
strong
people
opposing
here?
feelings when it came to June. He wanted to hug him, but he also had the overwhelming desire to ruin him.
I'm
Why
so
would he leave the severed
famous.
head at his own school, though? He said it was because he needed revenge for the school system for what they did. He felt like the school system made him a shell of his being. So, side note, this was a huge topic for Japanese netizens when this case was unfolding. Japanese schools are notorious for being incredibly competitive, where every exam is a mark on your future. Literally, every exam counts. Your grades can determine your next tax bracket, who you marry, what kind of life you live, probably even your lifespan. And it all starts in middle school. So perhaps it was revenge for that, or he claimed that it was a distraction. He felt like the police would, first of all, not assume that the killer was a middle schooler, and second of all, not assume that the killer was dumb or ballsy enough to leave the severed head at their own middle school. But netizens actually believe a third reason. He left it at his own school because that's the school that June went to, and he wanted to soak in everybody's reactions. The fear, the terror, the sadness, the grief, the emotional responses, the visceral physical reactions from something like this.
What's good? Gaming with
It would not
Brandon.
have
Thank
been
you,
as intense
Phoenix.
just reading it on the papers from a different school that didn't know the kid.
Like, he's not trying to get away with it. He's not trying to lay low. He's
This
trying
guy.
to get more fear out of people.
He just wanted to be a monster. I think you're right. He said, Mom, listen carefully. I'm sick, you see. It's not your fault that I've become like this. It's
Yeah,
nobody's
Mom,
fault,
listen
so I don't want you
carefully.
to blame yourself. Oh, what kind of sickness, Shinichiro? There's nothing wrong with you. You were a kind, timid, good child. What happened? My
You
feelings
were
for
a
you
kind,
haven't
timid,
changed
good
even now.
child.
Why? Why didn't you consult me? If you had any troubles, I would have done anything to help you. Why didn't you tell me? Mom, sometimes it's better not to know.
Oof.
Shinichiro would later
He's
say
not
that
wrong.
he hated how his family kept forgiving him for what he did. He felt very frustrated by it. He would say, I wanted to be called a monster. Being called a monster, being hated, denied, and rejected as many people as possible
So
was
he
my
wanted
desire,
to be hated?
my pride and joy in life, my lifeline.
I see the old
Shinichiro's
PFP
mom
Jordan.
didn't know what to say. I mean, who is this person? This doesn't feel like her son. Did she even know who her son really is? The press was calling him a monster, so maybe they're right. But also to the press, she was just the woman who birthed a monster. To the public, Shinichiro's name was not leaked for a while. At first, he just went by Boy A, and legally, that's still what he goes by. In Japan, there are very strict laws regulating the publicization of names of minors who have committed crimes. Shinichiro
So he
14,
was a
he
minor when he did it.
Technically, the law was set up to protect him. His identity was so withheld from the public. But for some reason, he was kind of upset. He had like, a lot of feelings about it. I don't think he wanted his name released, but he did say, the day I was arrested, I ceased to be myself. It was the day that every mundane moment of my daily life suddenly became to take on an inexplicable symbolism. I was no longer a living, breathing being. I had become Boy A lifeless symbol. It represented juvenile delinquency. For many people, and for others, it symbolized a frightening monster dwelling in a separate world devoid of any trace of human emotion.
Wow.
I don't know what he's complaining about, because not only was his identity protected from the public, he was also given a 6-year and 10-month sentence in prison.
6 years.
Because he's a
minor.
Yeah.
If he had been an adult, he would have gotten life. And in response to all of that, media outlets leaked his name. Or at least what most people are pretty certain is his name, which is Shinichiro. And they leaked a singular picture of him. Now, since it's not officially released, there's no way of knowing without a shadow of doubt how accurate the name is, but it has not been refuted. Most people believe this is his real identity.
Dear God.
The handling of the case, though, legally speaking, sparked public outrage, which I would say this case contributed heavily to the.
So I just want to say that it's alleged. Everything said in this video is alleged.
When did this happen?
Oh, 90s. Yeah.
The
now,
90s,
it still doesn't answer the question of why.
Right.
When little baby chicks are born, they go through a process of imprinting.
Oh my God, she's gonna say something bad.
When a little baby bird is born, a lot of them will imprint
She's talking about
form
baby
a
chicks.
strong, unbreakable social bond with the first moving object they encounter after hatching. It's actually kind of dangerous when humans get involved in the hatching process.
Yeah,
it's technically called
very
filial
much so.
imprinting, and it's a huge part of the bird's development. The way that it works is within the first few hours, a chick will see the first moving object and grow intensely attached to it. And once a chick is imprinted on an object or a being, it becomes very difficult to alter that bond. Even if the imprinted object is not the chick's biological parent, the chick will then start following and learning from the imprinted object. It's supposed to ensure that the chick forms a strong bond with the caregiver, which increases the chances of survival. Shinichiro believes that's what happened to him. That when he first experienced his intimate encounter thinking about his dead grandma, he thought, well, she's dead. I keep associating dead and these intimate relations together. He said, my dark sexual impulse, which had just broken through the egg, was spreading its arms in front of me. In this way, I unknowingly became a man who could not be sexually aroused unless I was around death. It's interesting because there is no reason why Shinichiro did what he did. Not saying that there would be an acceptable or excusable reason, but he was never abused growing up. He did not come from a strong authoritarian household where there was sexual abuse. I mean, there was really nothing in his childhood that could even remotely point to something like this happening. When Shinichiro reflected on why he did what he did in his grandma's room and how he reached a pleasurable state while thinking about his dead grandma, he said he thought about defiling his grandma's death in memories. He subconsciously wanted to replace the sadness. The last memories of his grandma were so sad because she died, and he wanted to replace it with something more enjoyable.
Wow.
So now that he thought of his grandma, and the last memory of his grandma, it would not be her death, it would be the 10-inch long shoulder massager that he used.
Oh, that's
Shinichiro thinks about her last words to him, which are ironic. Grandma said on her deathbed, listen, Shinichiro, when you grow up, become a defender of justice. Help the weak and defeat the strong.
Become a defender of justice.
He wrote, if my grandma had been alive for years, would I have not had this incident? Or would I have done this the same, even if she were alive? If I had the incident while my grandmother was alive, at least it's a relief that she had passed before I did all of this. No matter what I do, though, I think my grandmother loved me with all her heart, and I can't bear the depth of her love.
Wow.
I do have a food for thought question for all of you. Do you think a prisoner being reformed means that they are reformed when they stop committing the crimes? and reoffending? Or are they reformed when their personalities no longer want to commit those crimes? So is it when they stop
That's a
doing
good
the
question.
act or when they stop wanting
Because they
to
haven't
do
done
the
the act in years.
that?
If they've been in there for
prison,
years.
Shinichiro was sent to a reform program where he underwent rigorous psychological treatment along with therapy. And just to mention, sometimes the treatments are very interesting. Have you heard of aversion therapy? So offenders are exposed to stimuli that is related to their offending behavior, like things that turn them on from their crimes, something that triggers thoughts of excitement. And then the therapist will inject really foul odors into their mask, like a gas mask. So
Really? No.
they're kind of trying to Pavlov offenders, where they're trying to rewire their brain to associate the crime that they've committed that you did for pleasure with a foul smell, which will hopefully rewire your brain into having negative emotions every time you think about your crime, in hopes that you'll never reoffend that.
That's crazy.
There's also masturbatory reconditioning, which is exactly what it sounds like. Offenders are asked nicely, consensually, to have intimate relations with themselves while looking at images that are appropriate. It's hard to guarantee that they're not going into their imagination, but they will put the images and try to rewire it so that you keep associating that kind of pleasure with these types of acts.
Wow.
Yeah. We
That's
don't know
crazy.
if these were the exact therapies that Shinichiro went through, but it's likely because it stated that he received rigorous treatment for several years, and these are considered more on the rigorous side. March of 2003, he went before a 3-member parole panel, and they decided to parole him.
Oh my
To help aid in his rehabilitation, the parole
And
board
he was
decided that they were also
paroled.
going to provide him a place
He
to
was
live and
paroled.
instructions for daily life. They
That's
confidently
crazy.
told the public that we came to conclude that the psychiatric care and the correctional education at reformatories have obtained good results. The scary part is they announced his release to the public. In Japan, that is not normal. That is not normal, especially if their identities are not made public, legally speaking. It is not normal. The fact that they're announcing it to the public, Japanese netizens felt like it was a hidden warning. A message of, be careful, be on the lookout, because he's out,
Ooh,
he's free,
thank you,
and he's
thank
living
you. I
amongst you.
appreciate you.
June's dad, the victim's father, said, after he was released, the most important issue is whether he really is
I love you too,
rehabilitated.
baby.
I believe the man will face various difficulties after returning to society, and I think that is an ordeal he deserves. The crimes he committed cannot be redeemed, even if it takes his whole life. I hope that he will not forget that, and he will live his life bearing a heavy cross on his back. Shinichiro's old attorney
You're
stated,
cute.
if people are around him make a big fuss and put him on the spot, it's going to make it difficult for him to reintegrate into society. By realizing the value of his own life,
What's
he now
up,
feels he
Ohio
wants to make
Rob?
up for having taken people's
I'm
lives.
watching the
He's
chat
grown
and you
up a
watch
lot in a
us.
short
Do it.
period of time,
Watch
and
it.
I'm not worried about him. But the public was worried. What would he do if he got out? Were they just to believe that he would stop thinking about killing and he would never kill again? Or he would suddenly have so much self-control that even if he wanted to, he wouldn't? Some people have speculated that he's out now killing cats, but many disagree. He was bored of killing cats. Remember? He wanted to move on, and that was when he was in middle school. If there is something
he
you're
went
bored of in
back.
middle school, something so understimulating
It doesn't
that you
matter.
stopped doing it at 12, could you go back to it now as a 30-year-old?
Yes.
Probably not. And also,
Yes,
how is
you
that
could.
okay if he's just out here killing cats?
Yeah.
You know?
If it's
Now,
something he
every
hasn't
year
done in
after
a
his
while
release,
and it was a
Shinichiro
hobby,
wrote to
like
the
you can
victim's
come back to
families.
hobbies.
June's
Like you
father
don't have
said,
to. If
"Meeting
his
his loved
hobby was
demanded
killing
tremendous
cats,
effort.
like
It was emotionally and physically draining. But he wanted to do anything to get a bit more insight on why Shinichiro did what he did. The letter
dude,
started off very
facts.
short, and it grew longer and longer and more detailed and graphic. And by Shinichiro's
Listen to
10th
Crime
letter,
Junkie and shit like
June's
that.
dad actually
Yeah.
started to feel hopeful that someone could reform.
This is Rotten
You know, and the
Mango,
letters
but
felt deeply personal and intimate, not in a good way, but
I
in
love
that
Eric.
raw,
He's so
emotionally
cute.
terrifying, invasive way. But maybe that's what the victims' families needed to move on. Turns out Shinichiro was just using them as guinea pigs. He wanted to turn those letters
Rotten
basically into a book.
Mango.
Not the exact letters, not in letter format, but all the details that he was writing in the letters. He was like, ooh, I should just release a book. 2 books were released from Shinichiro's side. One written by Shinichiro's mom, which detailed all of her journey
Yeah,
of
Rotten
not knowing that
Mango.
this is what her
She's
son would do,
good.
and how she was so taken aback. And one written by Shinichiro himself, which our Japanese researcher found online and read. It reads more like a sick diary than anything. So let's break down both books, starting with his
Wait,
mom.
I'm so sorry. Have we talked about how he was caught?
The handwriting. They just started doing analysis.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's it?
They honestly, they thought the handwriting looked pretty juvenile. The way that he was talking was like a juvenile villain. So they were like, actually, I don't think we're looking for someone in their 30s or 40s. So we should just look
Crazy.
at kids.
In the school.
They started with all the schools in the area, including that school, and they just did a bunch of handwriting analysis, and they found it was him.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was like very
That's
anticlimactic.
insane.
Just, oh, the writing matches. Okay.
They did the fucking
Yeah.
handwriting analysis. That shit
And
is
then they
so.
realized he also stabbed
I don't
someone.
know.
Yeah.
And then, okay. I
So
see.
they found the handwriting was a match. They found his picture, and then they realized a few months ago there had been a girl that died from a hammer attack and a girl that was stabbed. So they went to the girl that was stabbed, who was still alive, and they asked her, "Does this look like the guy that stabbed you?" And she was like, "Yes." So they're like, "Okay, great. We've got our killer."
Damn.
Yeah.
So he's not that bright either.
No, it was not like this masterminded Zodiac killer.
What does my
chase.
hand
It's
say? It says
genuinely just-
ashes are purest
It was
form.
rather simple. Yeah. Now, some netizens argued that Shinichiro's mom was staring down a series of red flags but chose to look the other way. They wondered, was it for her own sake that she didn't want to face the red flags, or was it for his sake? I guess we'll never know, but a lot of netizens blame his mom. They argue that she heard the whispers that her son had been killing stray cats, but she did nothing about it. That she was confronted with the fact that he lashed out at June in the playground and beat him, but she made up excuses for it. That a psychiatrist straight up warned her
Jesus
almost point
Christ.
blank that her child was mentally unstable, but even then, she still refused to face the music.
Even when he was arrested, she went there and she said, "Hey,
Yeah.
just tell me you're innocent. I will fight." Like, yeah,
It's like, you're not even thinking.
yeah. Like she's like, "Let me protect myself." Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of netizens have trouble digesting or believing that she didn't see some of this coming. Now, I don't think any netizen thinks that she saw the extent of this coming, but like, it seems like something bad ought to happen. And they argue that she could have done something. They just don't think that she was completely blindsided by this. There were red flags staring straight down at her, and she did nothing to really prevent any
You have the word. It says weenie. That's crazy.
sort of impending disaster, regardless of the severity.
This
That's
is
what a
over
lot
in
of the
8
netizens are saying.
minutes.
Then in 2015, Shinichiro released his own book titled Zeka Boy A. In the first few weeks, the book sold over 100,000 copies. It's estimated that he's made tens of thousands of dollars from book sales.
Is this the one that?
We found online, yeah.
It's called. What is it called?
Zeka by Boy A. It's only in Japanese.
What does that mean, Zeka?
Oh, I'm about to tell you. So many bookstores, they started banning it, and a lot of netizens took problem with the
Plot
title of the book.
twist.
Zeka is kind of, so it's kanji, like it's like hanja, han character, it's like Chinese character symbols. So they don't read phonetically like English. The symbols mean something,
Yeah.
and they can have different meanings.
Yeah.
Like one symbol can mean something else. So the first character, initially what people thought was stop, and then the second one was song. So it's almost as if he's implying that the song stopped because he committed his crime, right? However, after reading the book, many people believe the first character is actually more aligned with the other meaning for that character, which is exceptional.
Oh my god, this is crazy. Because I know. Okay, so you're talking about like the character
Yes.
is 绝歌.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's the. Okay, I can see the
Both
two
sides?
dual meaning. Yes, 绝 can mean like it's extinct, it's gone, or 绝 is like so exceptionally well.
Yeah.
So two meanings really depends on how you.
People think it's the second one after reading it, like exceptional song. Like this was his exceptional song that he created,
Wow.
which would take on an
That's
entirely different
crazy,
meaning.
yeah.
So after reading the book, even Shinichiro's former lawyer, who wanted him to be rehabilitated, would say, "Oh, I guess it's impossible, isn't it? He will never return to being a human being. He will remain a demon forever." At the end of the book, Shinichiro writes, "If the teenage me from the past were to ask me, now as an adult, why shouldn't one kill people? Why should you not commit murder? I could only respond as follows. I don't know why it's wrong. But absolutely, absolutely do not do it. If you do it, you'll suffer much more than you can imagine." With no philosophical twist, just these simple words. I doubt I could convince my teenage self. Yet this is
I
the only
mean,
answer I found
obviously.
after struggling for 11 years since leaving the juvenile detention center.
Like he still wants to kill.
Yeah, so leaving us to conclude, more than 25 years after his crimes, at the age of 32, Shinichiro wrote this book, and he still doesn't know why murder is wrong. He just knows he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't like juvenile
So
detention
he is
centers.
still out right now.
He's out.
He's in his, like, 40s?
Yeah, we don't know who he is. He changed his name, so it's no longer Shinichiro.
Whoa.
As a way to drive publicity for his book, he opened up a website.
That's
It's
wild.
a long
guy.
website name, and it's been taken down, so it doesn't really matter. But it was something along the lines of, like, transparency and pain of existence that I cannot stand. .biz. The website is bizarre. It's basically, it has like an about author page where he writes that he's 5 feet 4 inches, weighs about 122 pounds. He is blood type A, INFJ. Yeah. INFJ is, I believe,
A
an
personality
advocate,
type.
which, this is crazy, but if you're into MBTI breakdowns, but they're known for their deep thoughtfulness and imagination, they're typically very idealistic and principled and find a lot of joy seeking purpose in life. Their strengths are wanting to know the deeper truths into people's motivations, feelings, and needs. They tend to have super principled moral compasses that are very strong. They're passionate and want to chase their dreams, but do not believe in succeeding at other people's expenses. They want to use their strengths for the greater good.
Nothing is what describes him.
What's
like,
up,
zero.
Negan?
He also there was really nothing that crazy on the website, but he did post pictures. I'm gonna try to pull them up for you. I think that the photos will be up on the Spotify video, but
Pictures of what?
I'm gonna describe them to you in depth.
Whoa, what is that? Wait, these are photos?
Yeah, so he posted these photos onto the website of himself, or at least we're led to believe that these are of himself. It's a shirtless photo of himself where he's blacked out his face, just his body, and I guess he's trying to be artistic on the website.
No, I'm not
in
lost.
one photo, he photoshops himself nude, laying down, and from the side angle, so we can't see his privates.
What
and in
the
between
fuck?
his legs, coming straight for his face, is this giant red slug, but it looks like it's been skinned. The slug is probably about the same size as him, if not maybe like 3/4 of the same size as him. It looks angry, and it's unclear if the slug is his private part, if it's a part of him, or if it's an entirely different entity that he's not friendly with.
It's like a monster, technically. It looks like an alien.
And in another one, he photoshopped his naked torso onto a black scorpion. There's just one that's a heart-shaped block resin. It looks real, like a photograph, not a photoshopped picture. And inside are just slugs. It's like he got a mold, put in a bunch of slugs, poured in some resin. Giant slugs. So he still seems to have an obsession with slugs. The website is filled with drawings of slugs, slugs crying in the rain, two-headed giant slugs, which is kind of terrifying to think about, since the killings, he hasn't really changed all that much.
Yeah.
The website contains no apology and no show of remorse, but his parents have chosen to stand by his side, even when he doesn't stand by them. After Shinichiro's release and his mom making a statement, she said, "Our son is now doing his best to have courage to plunge into the world of anxieties and uncertainties.
Wow.
I believe there will be a long and tough road ahead for us and our son, but if possible, I hope the public will watch over us quietly." But Shinichiro was not as dedicated to his parents. According to his father, Shinichiro disappeared out of their lives and off the radar. The last netizens heard of him was that he was spotted and rumored to have been working as a welder. He was married.
Good morning, Terrifier. How are you?
2018 is the last time anyone had any reports of even spotting him outside.
You have a blessed day,
of
too.
what city he's even in.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Why? He should be watched after, no?
Yeah. But he's out there somewhere. Ayaka Yamashita, the girl that was bludgeoned to death with a hammer, her parents were interviewed, and they have a sign over their front door that reads, "The power to live." The family still keep a pair of her sneakers near the front door, and at her school there's a sign that says, "A message from Ayaka. I'll always be by your
Living
side,
the dream,
even
for
if you can't
sure.
see." Meanwhile, June's parents have a living room coffee table that they can no longer use, because June had left a puzzle there that he started and never finished. And it's reported that the families also don't know where he is. The victims' families. So the anxiety of that is, I'm sure, great. And that is the story of the Kobe child killer in Japan. What are your thoughts on this case? I mean, it's just so... And I do wish that we did have more on the victims. This was a rare case where the victims' identities were released. However, when it comes to Asian cases, typically with Japanese, even Korean cases, we don't get as much of the victim childhood as you would see in Western cases. So that is why primarily the focus has been on him. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that someone could have seen this coming? Do you think that this could have been prevented somehow? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys on Wednesday for the main episode. Bye.
Damn. That was insane.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Oh, I'm
Lucy
scared.
felt like she got lucky with her husband. He's 10 years older than her, and that was
Oh god, chef brother caught with missing sister's DNA
right?
inside his rice
But it also
cooker.
has its advantages.
That
Usually
sounds
with age
scary
comes
already.
maturity, patience,
I'm
and the ability
worried.
to provide. And she's 27. He's 37. So it's not like this alarming age gap where she's freshly 18. And he was caring, he's reliable, and she's just so excited to start this new phase of her life with him. She was gonna move from her
I'm
hometown in
alive.
mainland China to
Traumatized
Taiwan,
a bit,
make
but
new friends, maybe start a family
I'm
with
doing
this man.
good.
The possibilities were endless. And she admits, a large part of why she married this guy, it has a lot more to do with settling down instead of love. But she could learn to love him. That's what she felt like.
She could learn to love
To be
him.
without her friends in Taiwan, but she could call them. And she did every single night. She would call them and tell them everything that her sweet husband did for her that day. Which, by the way, this is crazy, but he never wanted her to be in the kitchen. All of her friends are like, that is insane. I'm so jealous of you. Most of our husbands, super traditional. They want me to cook 3 meals a day. And your husband, constantly cooking for you, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're never in the kitchen.
Yeah, the cat.
He's a chef, so I guess it kind of
Stuff
makes
was
sense
a
that he
lot.
would want to spend time in his own kitchen, right? He would, however, get a little snappy at her when she disturbed his peace in there. It's kind of enduring. He's just very passionate when he's cooking. He doesn't want anyone to mess with his flow. So for the first few weeks, Lucy was in marital bliss. But as time went on, she started having these really odd suspicions. Her husband didn't just get snappy when she tried to help him cook in the kitchen. Even if she walked into the kitchen for a glass of water, he would be lounging in the living room, jumping up off the sofa to get the water for her. It's one thing to not want someone messing up your process or your work, but it's another thing to just not want your wife in a whole room of the house, like such an important room of the house. Even if she's not moving things around or touching anything, but maybe she's been spending too much time alone without her friends. She's thinking, maybe I'm overthinking things. Maybe he's just trying to be nice. But one day while he was at work, curiosity gets the best of Lucy.
Oh dear God.
Decides, this is so silly.
Curiosity.
I'm just
That
gonna
shit
go in there
never
and make
ends
myself
well.
something to eat. And if he's gonna get upset about that, then he's a horrible husband. What does he want me to do? Starve to death? She walks over to the kitchen, opens up the freezer door. Maybe there were some frozen dumplings she could steam. But instead, she makes eye contact. Inside the freezer was a woman's frozen head. She had long hair, her eyes were wide open, and staring at Lucy. Lucy slammed the freezer door shut. She ran back into the room, and she's like, I gotta leave now, right? But no, she can't. He knows where her family lives. He knows everything about her. He would know that she saw the head and left. I mean, this man would probably track her down to keep her quiet. The only other option is divorce, but how? She doesn't have a single person in the area that she knows, and she's terrified of this guy. Even going to the cops, what if he hides the head somehow? Lucy decides the only way to survive in the long run is to wait a few weeks before making up some lie that her grandma passed away and she would have to go to her family. She would have to go back home to mainland China. For the funeral, of course. And then she could tell her parents everything that she saw, everything that happened, and then they would help her figure a way out of this. But that meant for the next few weeks, she would have to pretend like nothing was wrong. She would have to control the fear in her voice, her facial expressions. She would have to not flinch whenever he got close to her. Whenever he walked into the kitchen, she would have to not look suspicious. If he suspected that she knew about the head, what would he even do to her? She had to play this right. She would have to sit down at the table, smiling, happy, in love, and get excited over these new dishes that he's cooking, and try not to gag, wondering, where is the rest of that woman's body?
Oh shit, that's brutal. It's like the rest of her body's gone.
as always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. We had our Mandarin-speaking researchers assist on this case so we could gather all the facts and details that were out there. Hopefully this will be a comprehensive deep dive on the case, but as always, with foreign cases, please let us know in the comments if there was anything we missed, anything lost in translation, or any just extra details that you know about this one. And with that being said, let's get started. If you have plans to go on a cruise, or maybe like a long boat ride, some people might recommend that you pray to the goddess Mazu. Do you know the goddess Mazu?
Mazu?
Yes.
No.
Okay, well, her name translates to Eternal Mother. Does it not?
Oh, okay.
And many believe she's the goddess that watches over the seas. So for generations, seamen would go fishing off the coast of Taiwan only to come back to land and their eyes would be wide. Like, this is how goddess Mazu started her story. Their hair would be soaking wet, and they would tell the craziest stories of like, oh my god, our boat almost capsized, it almost flipped over, but then this woman came down from the sky in this red robe. She said her name was Mazu, and she saved us. She saved us. This is like hundreds of years ago. So, unlike other goddesses, fishermen, sailors, anyone who claims to have been saved by goddess Mazu, they said that she never asked for anything in return. She's just this powerful, benevolent, compassionate, giving goddess. And eventually people didn't just worship the goddess Mazu when they went into open waters, but even on land. She was kind of the goddess of life in Taiwan. She will protect you no matter what. And in New Taipei City, there's even a temple named after her. It was built
Even a
250
temple.
years ago. Okay, which is technically crazy because that's around the same age as America. Yeah. So there's this temple built. It's very, very old. It's the Xuanshu Mazu Temple. And it's really interesting because there's actually a lot of temples in this area. This one was built 250 years ago, and it's actually pretty modest in size. So it's not one of these crazy olden day ancient buildings that's so massive and so grand. It's like a tiny little temple. But it's almost always jam-packed with tourists and locals. Some people will even say, I came from America, I came from all around the world just to be at this temple. The locals said this was one of the more favorable temples that you could pray at. Basically, a lot of your prayers may come true here at this very temple. Some people said they could feel it the moment that they walked in. There was this energy shift. According to people who have been there, once you walk in, you're hit with this scent of strong incense. And you're in the city, but you suddenly feel this just happy peace. It's like a weighted blanket. You just feel that peace. It feels calm. And then you even forget what time it is. You're just in the moment praying. People are kneeling in front of sacred statues. Some people are lighting up new incense. Others are rearranging and setting up flowers and fruit platters at the altar. And it just feels like a very peaceful time of reflection. But that day, it would be shattered by this ear-piercing screech, like, ee! Just blood-curdling. It's the type of scream that makes you want to kind of tilt your ear down because it sounds like nails on a chalkboard, and everyone is whipping their heads around trying to look for the direction of this scream because, I mean, obviously, it's not a natural scream. Trying to figure out what's going on. Everyone's frozen in the middle of whatever they're doing, in the middle of praying, arranging the fruit. Everyone is still, except this one woman is running frantically towards the temple. She's like sweating, her hair is a mess, her eyes are kind of like bulging out of her head, and
Crazy.
everyone's freaked out. What is this woman going through? It seems like she's shaking from what though? Adrenaline, fear, psychosis? Like, why is she coming to the temple? She runs into the temple, completely disregards everybody in there, drops to her knees in front of the Mazu statue, and she starts blurting out a bunch of prayers. She's stuttering and nothing is making sense. Everyone can hear her train of thought and it's just jumbled, like scrambled eggs. It doesn't make sense. It's like she's verbally vomiting. She's sweating.
I don't know. It says there's 4 people here, but you're the only one
of
talking in the
anyone around
chat.
her. She doesn't even realize that she's disturbing the peace. Everyone's looking at her like she's crazy. No, she just kept praying. Rubbing her palms together, word vomiting, shaking, sweating, and then nothing. She just stops, gets up, and leaves the temple, and everyone is like, what is going on? It was like she was in a trance, okay? She's just walking out one foot in front of the other until she ends up in front of a police station. She's now sitting in front of these police officers, vomiting up the same thoughts and memories. It's like the floodgates had opened.
I guess so.
Is just spilling out at once on the table in front of them. The police are telling her, like, slow down, slow down. Okay, you're the janitor at the temple. And you what? I went to go clean the bathrooms. They're detached from the temple, maybe like 600 feet away. I went to clean the men's bathroom first, and I saw this plastic bag in there, right? It's one of those black grocery store flimsy plastic bags that you get, and clearly something was in there. And it was just sitting on the back of the toilet. So if you're using the restroom, your back would be to this bag, right? And she thought, maybe it's takeout that someone forgot, or someone was just too lazy to throw their own trash away and left it for whoever would clean the restroom. So that's what she was gonna do. She was just gonna trash it. But then she was worried. What if someone didn't leave it? What if they accidentally left it and then there's something valuable in there and this is a temple, we get tourists, we get locals. You know, what if they come back looking for it? So she starts opening up the bag. There's like a tight knot on this black plastic bag. She's trying to get it open. And the minute that she undoes it, she said it's like the most pungent smell she's ever smelled in her life. Like someone sprayed something into her face. She'd never smelled anything like it. It was stinking up the whole bathroom. She's waving her hand in front of her nose, squinting her eyes, because it's the type of smelly that you feel like is gonna absorb into your body. So you feel like you need to squint your eyes so it doesn't penetrate. And she's briefly debating, okay, maybe I should throw it away in the trash.
Yeah, dead
Assuming
body.
maybe it's seafood. That's what she's telling the police. Like, maybe I thought it was seafood that had gone bad, or maybe baby diapers that people had been just, like, leaving around. It smelled like it had been marinating for a while. But something in her head just told her to keep going. She keeps untying the bag. She finds more layers. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe she knew that she would think about this bag every single night for the rest of the week when she laid in bed, because she just needed to know what's in there. There's layers upon layers.
Layers of bags?
It's like she opens the bag and there's a jacket. So she's like taking out the jacket. Then there's a shirt. She's taking out the shirt. And then there's plastic wrap. She's like, okay, what's going on? And then finally, a decapitated head. It was covered in salt. It was basically fermented. She cries to the police, like, I will never get this look out of my mind, because the amount of salt that was covering this head, the head
There's
was
just
shriveled
salt
up
on
like
the
a
head.
raisin. It was completely dry. So she's just letting this out all on the table. I mean, probably not organized like the way I just told you. It's like just coming out all at once, like she was in the temple. And the police are debating for a good minute. Maybe this janitor lost her mind. I mean, she looks kind of crazy. Her hair is a mess. Her eyes are like bulging out. She doesn't seem credible. But then right then, the phone rings. They're like, what is going on? A police station about 3 hours away was calling. We have a very strange letter, and it falls under your jurisdiction. So they're like, okay, yeah, just tell us the letter. Apparently, an anonymous letter was sent earlier this morning to that police station 3 hours away. They initially thought it was a prank. They didn't get around to it because they're like, first of all, that's 3 hours away. We've got nothing to do with this. This feels like a kid wrote it to scare us. So they disregarded it, but then they were thinking, you know what? Maybe we should just have a different police station look into it instead of us driving 3 hours. Okay, what does it say? It reads, hello, officer. Chen Wan Ting. We'll call her Cece. Cece's corpse is inside the men's restroom 600 feet away from a temple in New Taipei City.
Off dead
Please
body.
give her a burial. I can't deal with it.
Ew.
Thank you, a kind-hearted man.
I'm like not even talking much.
Wow.
Because
Now
nobody's
the
in
officers are
chat.
looking at the janitor like, okay, this is
You're
really bad.
edging off
Like,
this
whatever's
line.
going
That's
on is
crazy.
true and it's
weird.
bad. So they rush in their patrol cars, turn their lights on, the whole 9 yards. They start heading to the temple bathroom. They slam open the bathroom stall door, and the smell hits
The
them hard.
janitor.
And the janitor was telling the truth.
That's great.
There was this black plastic bag sitting on the toilet. They opened it up, revealed the first layer.
Oh,
Another
Jesus.
plastic bag. So I guess she had put everything back where it was. Then slowly peeled off another one to find another layer, a woven sack.
Well, thanks for
A
coming,
jacket,
Dave.
a
I
t-shirt,
appreciate
a
you.
pair of black floral shorts, and then lastly, a female pair of underwear covered in male bodily fluids.
This guy.
With all 7 layers was a woman's decapitated head,
Yeah.
covered in salt. And a little note. And the note read,
So disturbing.
identity equals
They-
Tawanti. Whoever left her head wanted the police to find her corpse. Not only that, but they wanted the police to know who the
Yeah.
head belonged to. But why? Wouldn't that go against most criminals' best interest?
Yeah.
Maybe this wasn't even.
I don't want to
right. Maybe
think.
she wasn't Cece. Maybe this is a
Either.
red herring. But as of right now, that is the strongest lead that they have, and it was time to figure out who is Cece, who wants her dead, and also where is the rest of Cece's body. The detectives find Cece. Well, they find her apartment. They don't find her, right? And they start questioning her neighbors one by one. And it all started the same. All of them were like, Cece who? Literally all of them. Nobody knew Cece. And the police would show them a picture, because Cece has a missing persons poster. She's in the database. And they show them a picture. She went missing 3 months ago, so not even that long ago. Come on, you guys are the neighbors. And they're like, oh my god, yeah, I know her. But we just called her Little Sweetheart around here. It's like a little nickname. So the police are assuming, well, then that must
Just
mean
call her
you're
Little
very close to her,
Sweetheart.
because why would you call your neighbor a Little Sweetheart? And all the neighbors were like, no, absolutely not. We were
Just
not
say it's
close at all.
consent.
Some neighbors stated, you know, some of us felt bad for her, but she was just not that fun of a person to be around. There were always these
Yikes.
strange noises that would come out of her unit. Sometimes she would run out in her
Babe.
stand in the hallway and stare at anyone that
did.
passes by. And if you happened to make
Into
eye
this
contact
live.
with her,
You
she
did,
would
you
start
did.
hysterically laughing. It was weird. There were always men coming in and out of that unit, and I think that they were assaulting her because she would run out of her apartment, her hair would be a mess, and her clothes looked like someone had been trying to rip them off, and she would scream, "This man is trying to assault me." And at first, as neighbors, we tried to help, but it just kept happening so frequently. And sometimes we didn't even know if we could believe her. She was always drunk or high.
I still had a
Some
couple
neighbors
little
were a little
buds
bit more
left.
sympathetic. They said, you know, we just all kind of felt bad for her. And we
Just
felt bad
broke
for her
one
brother.
in half.
He was the one that always took care of her. Like, no matter how bad she got, no matter if she went on a drug binge, and even his wife left him recently because of her. They say it's because she had a family emergency, like her grandma died or something. But we all know that she left because of all the family drama. She probably couldn't handle the stress anymore. The victim was always going around accusing people of assaulting her or saying that she needed to be assaulted to make money.
The brother lives in
He
this
does. He be hitting
The
it.
brother-
He
yeah,
be
they
hitting
live
it every day.
Oh,
The brother
so
and
this
Cece,
brother, Cece, and brother's wife
Yeah,
live in
but
this
the-
apartment.
the wife just left.
Right. And
Right.
Cece is dead.
So the officers, they do more digging into Cece's past, and it was, yeah, it was just grim.
Still wanna
so
think
Cece
it's
and her family,
consent.
they were dealt some really shitty cards.
Yeah.
Cece was the fourth.
I
of
don't think it's
6
consent.
siblings, which is a huge family. I mean, factoring in 2 parents, that's 8 mouths to feed, and they weren't doing well financially. And then when Cece was a teenager,
He
her father
does.
passed away from
He
excessive
does.
drinking, and I assume liver problems. So now Cece's mom was raising all 6 kids by herself. Thankfully, some of them were grown enough to move out of the house, but still, I mean, she was a single mom to a lot of kids. And I don't think that she was necessarily a bad mom. I think Cece's mom tried. She tried her best given the circumstances, but it just wasn't perfect. I mean, it wasn't even good. So she was working nonstop every single day, barely had time to rest. She definitely did not have time to educate her children, help them with homework, make sure that they weren't falling into bad influences. Like, the kids were basically
Yeah,
raising
me
themselves.
too.
She did put food on the table. She put a roof over their heads, but that was about it. She just didn't have the capacity to do anything else.
Well,
was
yeah,
a priority.
clearly. She's not going to
She's
say it,
not like
though,
a tiger mom
so.
demanding to know, what are your grades? Like, sit down, show me your report card. She didn't do any of that. And so a lot of the kids, you know, the teachers would say, we don't want to call it flaws, but they definitely seemed under-supervised. We could tell. Cece was actually called the school flower of her grade.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the term given to typically the prettiest girl in the entire school. Usually multiple popular boys would be trying to take her out on secret dates after school.
Also, not only that, but also have good grades.
Yes, but Cece was the exception.
Oh, really?
No good grades, yeah. And her desk drawer was always filled to the brim with snacks, love letters from boys who had crushes on her, and she looked like an innocent girl next door. almost like all the school flowers, you know, that stereotypical look. She had more soft, rounded features. She's very conventionally pretty growing up. Okay, to give you context, when she was 15 years old, she's walking home from school and she hears this man behind her. "Excuse me, student. Excuse me. Take my business card. I'm a scout for a huge entertainment agency and I think that you are exactly what we're looking for." He runs off and Cece throws away his business card. She did not care to be in the entertainment industry. And it's not because she was too busy studying or she wanted to focus on graduating high school. She straight up felt like the industry was lame. Like she was too cool for it. So you know how high schoolers are. And for Cece, it was even worse because she was hanging out with these really intense crowds that felt like school is lame. Learning is lame. All of these things are lame. They would smoke, drink, skip class, and do which is insanely hardcore in Taiwan. Like, even for adults to do drugs, that's crazy. For high schoolers to do drugs, insanity. So, to them, everything else was lame. And it seemed like Cece's mom knew what was going on, but, like, she didn't know how to stop it. It's not like she had the funds or the time to just sit there and make sure that Cece went to school. She would yell at her, because eventually Cece would be, it escalated to the point where she was expelled from school. So her mom is yelling at her, but it's not working. Cece drops out of high school and she gets married at 18 years old. Even her friends were like, 18? Like, you should wait. You have so many guys that like you. You should explore your options. Don't tie yourself down so quickly. Like, why would you do that? Cece had what they called lover's brain. There was no talking to her about this guy. She was in so deep. I mean, she felt like this guy was the savior of the planet, the whole reason that she was born, for this moment, to be his bride. Like, to put it mildly, I mean, she was in love with this man. And I'm sure that there's some trauma there. Like, maybe this is the first person that made her feel like she could be herself. Maybe it's the first person that loved her. I don't know. Maybe he was filling some sort of father figure role. So they get married very quickly and then have a child together. Cece is 18 and so is he. And that's where the problem, the downfall of their marriage comes in. Every able-bodied male citizen in Taiwan is required to serve in the military for, I think, a little over a year. I think it's like 16 months. I think 4 months of like basic training and then 12 months of active duty. I don't know if they categorize that as a year.
Are you still in here,
months,
babe?
right? And her husband is like, "Okay, bye, gotta go enlist in the army. It's the law. Good luck with the kid."
Oh my god.
Cece gets her life together while he's gone. I don't know if it's a conscious choice. I don't know if she sat down one day and was like, "We got this. I gotta change." Or if it just like happened gradually. I'm not sure. But while her husband is in the army, she's like the epitome of a try-hard single mom in the best way possible. She's working, cleaning the house, taking care of the child. Any free time she had, she would talk to her friends about how perfect her husband was. She had this calendar where she counted down all the days until he was back. And her friend said it's like someone went into her brain and installed like a love potion where she can only think about this one person and it's her husband. Every single
Me
day,
as fuck.
she would get so excited to do the little red X.
Relatable.
Another day, 1 day closer for her husband coming back. So a few weeks are remaining before he's finally out.
Crazy.
And Cece gets a letter in the mail, and she's like skip
What are you
hopping
ripping
back
out
to the
of?
apartment to open
What?
it up. It's from the love of her life, right? She's carefully ripping it open because she's like saving all of his letters.
I'm just listening
And
to
as she's reading it, her smile
a
is
true crime
fading.
thing. Yes, I
Tears
gotta
are
go.
streaming
You
down
haven't
her
even
cheeks.
been here,
She's ripping
ye.
the letter tighter, and her knuckles are white. By the end of it, all she feels
See you
is pure
soon,
rage
ye.
and anger. Her husband.
Eric,
wrote
are
her
you
to
still
say,
here, Lobby?
basically, "Hey, thanks for waiting for me and taking care of our child all alone. But once I get out, I'm gonna live my life, you know? My parents don't think that you're good enough for me and I don't want anything to do with you or the baby.
Oh
So,
my
good
god.
luck." Cece's
Really
like, "Okay,
relatable.
this has gotta be a joke. It's a joke. It's a prank. It's maybe one of those things that people do in the army. Like, you know how you have to get initiated into the army? Maybe the other army bros made him write this, right? And then he's gonna come home in a few... It'll be fine. It'll be fine, right?" It wasn't fine. She had no idea how to contact him even when he was returning, when he was out of the army. She couldn't track him down. He never came back. So eventually she comes to terms with the fact that, okay, this is my new life. She drops off her child at a relative's house. She said, "I can't look at my kid anymore because looking at my kid reminds me of my husband."
So she also abandoned the child.
That's
Yeah,
fucked.
she packs her bags, moves to a nearby city. She's 22 when this happens, and she fully snaps.
Like,
It
my
was
kid looks
sudden. It's
exactly
weird.
like his
One
dad,
day her
but
friends
I'm
were
still
comforting her.
like,
She's devastated, which is to be expected after such
I
a
don't know.
shitty
I
breakup,
love my
right?
boy. Like,
But the
I
next
see
day,
me
it's
when
like
I
the
look
old
at him. I
Cece
don't
gone.
see, like,
Her
that's
friends
my
noticed that
blood.
one
Like,
day her
I
makeup was
did
just
that. Like,
regular
you know
Cece
what I
makeup,
mean?
very light, clean, right? Then
I
it's
don't look
just
at
so
it as
heavy. Like
the way
smoky
other
eye,
people look at
intense
that.
pigmented colors all over her face. I mean, she's still beautiful.
I
That
don't get
makeup
how
style
you
is beautiful.
can
It
as
was
a
just
mom.
so sudden. Like, you know how people chop off all their hair when they're not feeling great mentally? Or like every girl dyes their hair after a breakup? That was kind of the vibe. So they're like, okay, maybe we should just keep an eye on her. But then it starts getting weirder. Cece starts wearing her pajamas out and just mindlessly strolling around the neighborhood. If someone would make eye contact with
Me.
her, she would stop walking, just like stop walking, stare at them, and tilt her head up to the sky and start hysterically laughing.
Wow.
So she's going through something mentally, right?
Yeah, and it was kind of creeping people out. A lot of people would cross the street to avoid walking past her. And Cece's friends believe that this is kind of when
I
she
probably would too.
went
Fuck.
mad. Her only life goal from this point on was just to drink and get high. And it's clear she's trying to self-medicate with whatever's going on in her head. She's not okay. She's not showering. She's not taking care of herself. I mean, Cece's mom is trying to help by giving her around $250 a month, which doesn't cover the necessities, but that's all Cece's mom had left. And Cece would use it on drinking and smoking. No job would hire her, so Cece starts engaging in sex work. Her pricing was $15 to touch her breast, $80 for full intercourse, or at least that's how it started.
Jesus.
And then eventually, when her addiction got really
I
bad
didn't know
and
we
she
were
was
getting
really
to
desperate,
this point.
some clients said that her pricing would drop down to $8 for full intercourse.
Jesus
And the thing that
Christ.
with sex work, okay, personally, I never judge anyone that is
Sorry.
engaged in sex work, and I know right
That
now we're in the
is
process of everyone trying to
crazy.
destigmatize sex work, which I think is great. But one reality that just cannot be avoided is when you're engaging in this type of work, person to person, it's very dangerous. Like any person to person job is dangerous. Cece would often bring home clients because she couldn't afford a second location and they didn't want to pay for hotels, or if they did, they're like, okay, then I'm going to deduct it from what I'm paying you. So she would bring these clients home, and oftentimes they would just brutally assault her and leave without pay.
Eric, are you still here,
And
love?
now that she's acquiring more trauma, she needs more
I tried
alcohol,
asking,
more
but I don't
to
think
kind
you
of calm that pain
are
down.
here.
And all the neighbors knew. They knew what was going on. These clients didn't even try to hide it. I mean, they would just hear terrified screams coming out of that apartment, banging, yelling, threatening, and then a door would slam shut, and then someone stomping away, and then the door opens again, and Cece's running, demanding to be paid. Originally, in the beginning, some neighbors felt so bad for her that they even gave her money here and there. But they felt frustrated because things would never change. You know, Cece would keep bringing people home, and they would keep assaulting her, and it just, the neighbors felt like, we're not doing so great either, you know? Which brings the investigators to think, okay,
Damn.
what if this is some deranged client? I mean, this wouldn't be the first time, right? Look at everything that happens in the US. Serial killers targeting sex workers because they're easy targets, they go unnoticed. And they have confirmation that Cece's clients weren't the best law-abiding group of civilians out there. What if some sick, twisted, deranged client had this fantasy that would involve taking Cece's life? So they're like, let's run the DNA. The investigators run the male fluid DNA that was found on Cece's undergarments that were wrapped around her head. They also had CCTV footage of a man walking towards the temple bathroom with a plastic bag in their hand, which I know what you're thinking. Okay, that's the easiest way to ID them, right? But the guy is completely covered up. I mean, in the video, it just wasn't that useful, at least right now. Like, to look at that video and then look at all the men nearby, it's not going to work. So the DNA is really everything that they had. They run it. Now, there's a strong possibility that it's not going to match to anyone in the system. That person
Check the comp panties.
with a hit. A local taxi driver.
Yeah.
The police
I
have so many
guess
questions
so.
for this guy.
I
There
guess
had been
it
evidence
did
that
drop.
Cece's head had been frozen before being covered in salt. Did he try to pickle her? What was the point in preserving her head? To not draw suspicion on odor? But then why leave anonymous notes at a police station 3 hours away? And then what about the note in the bag that pointed to the victim's identity? Was the taxi driver just purely unhinged? Or is there some sort of long game that they're playing? The taxi driver did not answer any of these questions. Because he's like, I don't even know Cece was dead. He's explaining, you gotta believe me. I only slept with her a few times. I was a client. You can arrest me for that if that's what you want to do, but I didn't murder her. And that's not me on the CCTV footage, because that night, I have proof. I have witnesses. I was nowhere near that temple when the bag was placed in the bathroom. I was working. The police checked his alibi, and it cleared. The taxi driver is not the killer. So then who the hell is the killer?
God damn it.
It
Not
all
the
comes
taxi
back
driver.
to a fortune teller. The investigators are sitting at their desk trying to figure out what the hell is wrong here. It doesn't make sense. Someone killed Cece, and we've got a ton of neighbors that know every little thing that's going on in there, every little mental breakdown that she's had. They saw it, yet nobody saw anyone suspicious, like a new man lingering around. And then it hit them. They're like, okay, all the neighbors, they know so much about her, or at least we thought they did, right? But remember in the beginning when I said, as they're investigating, all the neighbors are like, Cece who? Oh, that neighbor, once they see the picture. Records show that Cece legally changed her name to Cece. That's not her real name. Well, it is now. But maybe a few months ago it wasn't her name. That's not what everyone in the apartment building knew her by. Apparently, Cece had gone to a fortune teller to ask her about her life. And in a lot of Asian cultures, the mom's name or a woman's name can determine not only her own fate, but the fate of her child as well. And the fortune teller told her, all your hardships, your divorce, they're all going to be passed on to your child, even if you're not with your child right now, unless you change your name. So Cece went, and she changed her name legally. She went from Chen Ahi to Chen Wanting. And she told nobody, except a handful of those closest to her, but the letter had Chen Wanting on there.
Wow.
So that means her killer is someone that knew her intimately. It's not a random client, because she never gives her real name to clients. It's someone very, very close to her. Even neighbors didn't even know the new name.
Wow, that is a detail that, wow.
So maybe a boyfriend, maybe a pimp, right? They go back to investigating, and they're asking around to see if Cece had someone close to her that seemed dangerous. And all the neighbors are like, I mean, I guess this is kind of random, but she did casually mention quite a few times that she had to go sleep with her brother to make money.
What?
And the police are like, her brother? Why would you not say that? And they're like, her brother Fang? That's what we're calling him. And then so they're like, why would you not tell us that when we first asked you about it? And the neighbors are like, yeah, no, I just thought she was saying brother, client, friend, man, hello brother, you know what I mean? Hello bro. I didn't think she was actually talking about her actual brother. But then now that you're asking, is there someone very close to her, I guess, it's fine. I mean, these are very big
Is my
details.
stream still going,
So
guys?
police are
Can
going
someone
back to
tell
all
me
the
if it's
neighbors
still
asking,
working?
It's also, it's the brothers, maybe Koreans too, oppa.
Yeah.
So you can call someone oppa, but your actual brother, you also call them oppa. It's like that, go.
Oh, yes, but it's not my biological brother. It's
Yeah.
just a male that's older than me.
Yes.
Yes. So they're like, oh, well, I thought she was talking about clients.
Yeah.
And the police are like, okay, what else can you think
You're
about?
good job. I just wanted to be sure.
Anything, any little detail. Come on, think. There were rumors that the brother was a little weird, that Fang had an obsession. Okay, this is what the neighbors are saying. Some said that he had a journal that he kept about an actress named Jeannie. She's a Taiwanese actress. And even Jeannie came forward after this case broke to say, yeah, that actually happened. So apparently he had a journal that documented his love for her, and he declared himself her husband. He would send her tissues filled with male bodily fluids, threatening her if that she filmed any romantic scenes with any other men, very bad things would happen to her. He would even go to her fan meets to try and shake her hand, and God knows what else he was trying to do. But the neighbors are saying, listen, we don't know for sure, okay? It's just a rumor around the block that he's kind of weird. And the police are like, okay, what else? What else could you have missed? Because it seems like you missed a lot of things, right? And one of the neighbors states, and there's the meat grinder. These days, someone in that apartment unit has been chopping up meat. Like, you can hear the knife hitting the butcher block. So it's like someone chopping up a chicken, like a whole chicken. Like, you know when you're chopping up chicken breasts, you're not going to hear it from the apartment next door. But if I'm there butchering a chicken trying to get through bone, then you might hear it. Well, we keep hearing it. And then the meat grinder is just going nonstop at night. But we never assumed it was strange because the brother Fang is a chef. He works with a lot of meat. We just thought his sleep schedule had just shifted to be nighttime instead of daytime. And like, how are we supposed to know?
湿湿的血水，轻轻的啦，不是很红的那种。好像有干啊什么什么名字，不知道是好像内脏之类的，在他们家就是留下。
So the police are like, okay, when was this? Around the time that Cece stopped showing up. So I guess around the time that she disappeared. The investigators are like, all right then. We're gonna need a whole team here, stat. If neighbors are suggesting and the police are theorizing that the brother could have killed his own sister, that means he would have likely dismembered her, ground up her flesh, and what would you do if you're the killer? Probably dispose of her body parts in a toilet or kitchen sink drain. We have to check all the septic tanks, sewage systems. We need to check the pipes to see if Cece's DNA is in there. The police also went in to search the unit now with where Fang and Cece lived, and they found very curious evidence. They found several knives with big dents on the blades, like someone was dismembering something much bigger than a chicken. They found Cece's DNA found in the inside the slow cooker.
Slow cooker?
They found her DNA
That'd be crazy,
inside the pots. Not on the outside, inside, and I'm sure the DNA was not like a piece of hair.
Yeah.
They also found her DNA on knives. The evidence suggests that Fang killed his own sister, dismembered her, and then cooked her remains, probably so it would be easier to dispose down the drains or down the toilet. So bear with me. Theory is dismembered, meat grinder, cooked, then flushed in the toilet, right? The cops found nothing in the septic tank or the sewage system or the pipes.
But they found it in the pot.
Yes, and nowhere else in the house.
Oh, so you're saying that he didn't flush it down?
No.
Whoa, that's crazy.
So we don't
Yeah.
know, we still don't know to this day what he did. We just know not down the drains. So we just know she was cooked. And then what happened next? I mean, the obvious question is, did he consume her? Did he let others consume her? We don't know.
Everybody ate her.
Cece's mom, she hadn't been able to get in contact with Cece for the past 3 months. That's why she filed that missing persons report. And ever since she found out Cece had been murdered, she had not been able to get any sleep. She had just so many regrets as a mother, one of the biggest being that after all of her kids had grown up, the whole family moved to a neighboring city to find more opportunities and work. Everyone, right? Except for brother Fang and daughter Cece. They stayed behind
That's
in
what
their
I'm
hometown.
saying, bro.
And Cece's mom would make the trip down to the hometown every single week just to check up on Cece. But at least she's like, you know what? One of my eldest kids, my second son, is taking care of Cece, looking after her. She said that Cece was struggling with her mental health, so the whole family knew that Fang was, particularly attentive towards his younger sister. But towards the end of 2012, Cece just dropped off the face of the earth. She would never respond to text messages, calls, nothing. She also just stopped coming home, and Fang is like, I don't know where she is. They all try searching for her by themselves, the family does. They're calling her, lingering around the apartment, trying to find friends, asking neighbors. Nobody's seen her. They finally file a missing persons report. And the mom, she admitted, I was worried that something bad happened to my daughter. But we were more leaning towards the fact that maybe she met someone new. Maybe she was out drinking. None of them thought that her head would be found in a plastic bag left at a temple bathroom. Which, speaking of, in a last-ditch effort to
I
solve
guess,
this case,
yeah.
the police bring in Cece's mom one more time. They had already traumatized this poor woman. She was asked to identify her daughter's remains, and since they didn't want to mess with the evidence too much, she basically had to see her daughter's head decapitated and covered in salt. She also saw the clothes that were wrapped around her daughter, and she had bought those clothes for her daughter. And so it was really rough. The officer said that she was grabbing onto their jackets, shaking them, like bawling on the ground, screaming, "Tell me what happened. You need to figure out what happened."
I don't know how she's gonna cope with son and daughter. Like,
yeah, it's like a moment where the mom, I think, realized that true evil existed in this world, and her daughter must have come face to face with the devil. That's the feeling.
Right.
So the
that
officers,
devil is your son. Like,
yeah.
How do you even?
It's kind of surprising her reaction later. So the officers, they hesitantly bring in the mom again, and they start asking the questions about her son's relationship with the daughter. And I mean, obviously the mom is taken off guard. She feels like the police are kind of framing it all strange, which, I mean, clearly it's not like that. She's saying, no, my son Fang is a good kid who's helping take care of my younger daughter. He probably wasn't the best caretaker. She's still engaged in sex work and like, yes, I know that's bad, but we're all doing the best that we can. The officers finally show her the CCTV footage. This is like March of 2013, so Taiwan in March is not that cold, not puffer jacket cold. He's wearing a puffer jacket, wearing a mask, sunglasses, and a curly wig, like an ajumma wig, an old lady wig, which just felt so off-putting, right? Very strange. The figure is seen covered up completely, like they don't want to be recognized. They're holding a black plastic bag, and they disappear near the temple because there's no more CCTV cameras. They walk back out without the plastic bag. So Cece's mom takes one look at the footage, and she feels destroyed. In the span of like a week or two, she identified her daughter as the brutal murder victim, and her son as the predator and killer of her daughter. And everyone's just wondering, why would the brother do this? The theory is her brother was her pimp, and things had escalated until he killed her. It's speculated that they themselves had a very twisted relationship, so Fang would allegedly pimp her out, take most of the money that she earned, minus the money that she would need to spend on. He really only allowed it because drugs would be the way to keep her compliant. It would be to keep her in check, make her easy to control. Which is, this part is already so sick and twisted, especially between siblings, but even worse than that, it's suspected that he was abusing his own sister. Their mom would send Cece $250 a month, but she would ask her son Fang to take the money first and then split it into small payments and give it to Cece throughout the month because she was worried if she gave it to her all at once, it would just go to right?
Yeah.
And to Cece's mom, it appeared like her son Fang was just this nice older brother, but in reality, he was dangling the money over Cece's head to get her to perform acts for him, his own sister. It's speculated that this is just how it started. For 14 years.
What?
And eventually, after 14 years, Cece's not bringing in enough money for Fang. She's becoming a liability. She's 39 years old at this point. She's been in this line of work for the past at least 14 years. I mean, this would have taken a large toll on her mental health, physical health, and if we're being very thorough, also on her appearance, because they're known to be very, very damaging to, I guess, appearance. Not that that's the biggest thing, but in this line of work, it might matter, you know? And Fang decides it's time to move on. He also thinks about his own life. He's like, you know what? I want to start a family. I want to have a wife and kids, and I can't do that when there's strange men in and out of the house, and my sister is making explicit noises in the room next door. Like, I can't do that. What would my wife think?
Eric's missing out on some crazy post-nut clarity.
In China, there's something called a dowry. It's not required by law or anything, but it's pretty standard. Since there are a lot more men than there are women in China to get married, men have gotten kind of creative, and it's also a tradition, right? Some men will get creative trying to secure a family. They will bring lump sums of cash to the bride's family, shower the bride with gold, literally gold, gift them luxury items, all these things to be able to marry the woman that they love, right? Now, typically the dowry is different amongst each marriage and class. It's a lot of money, and it typically, it shouldn't bankrupt a man and his family, right? So it just depends on how well you're doing financially. But Fang had just met a woman from Fujian on a blind date, and he wants to marry her. They don't even know each other. But he's like, you know what? She's nice. She's willing to move to Taiwan. The only thing is, he would need to pay $35,000 for a dowry. What's wild, though, is that her family didn't even request a dowry. They said, actually, our daughter being able to move to Taiwan is enough for us. We think she'll have more opportunities in Taiwan. But he's like, no, I'm going to get you guys dowry. I'm going to take out a loan and give you a dowry. So they get married, he does the dowry, and she's tying up loose strings, his wife, packing her things in mainland China to move to Taiwan. So after his marriage, he's like, you know what? This is the time to get rid of my sister, because there's no other time. Once my wife moves here, I can't get rid of my sister. It's time for my sister to be useful again. Fang had worked in the insurance industry before all of this, so he knew a lot about life insurance, how it worked, how to get paid. So starting in 2011, this is 2 years before the murder. It's a meticulously thought out plan. Fang starts buying up life insurance policies for his sister, totaling up to $250,000, $250,000, 2 years before her death. Then he killed her, and then he sent the letter. Now, this is not for his own guilt that he wants his sister to at least be buried and rest in peace. No, it was for insurance purposes. Fang knew that if his sister's death couldn't be confirmed and she had only disappeared, he would have to wait on average 7 years to claim the money. That is too long. He needed the authorities to know who this was so that they could confirm her death, and he could get paid $250,000. That's why he also chose a very public bathroom at a temple to do it, so her head would be found faster. But he did try to confuse the police with the taxi driver DNA, so he found underwear, wrapped her in it, right? And he made sure to kill his sister before his new wife moved in, slowly disposing of her remains. So it's assumed that the rest of her body was dismembered and ground up. But the only problem was, he needed to keep the head because that's what would give him the life insurance payout. That's the ID.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have time to get rid of the head before his new wife moved in.
That's crazy. So the wife doesn't even know that's the sister?
No, because she never met the sister. Wow. But she did hear that the sister had gone missing.
But the wife didn't go to the police?
No. Yeah, so Fang's wife, she goes by Mrs. Lu in the media, but we'll call her Lucy, right? She's the one from the beginning of this story. Mm-hmm. Authorities tracked her down in mainland China and started asking her questions about the relationship. And they said at first she seemed really traumatized and scared. She, refused to talk. She kept asking if they were 1,000% sure if Fang was going to be locked up for good for this. And when they finally assured her, yes, he cannot touch you, he cannot do anything to you or your family, then she started telling them the story of how she found a head in their freezer. She said that she moved to Taiwan looking for a better life compared to her hometown. That's honestly a pretty big reason why she married him, right? But when she got there, she realized pretty quickly, okay, it's kind of the same as my hometown. It's not bad, but it's the same as my hometown, same amount of opportunities, but instead I'm away from my family and friends. Instead, I'm isolated. So it's just kind of, for her personally, she didn't like it. And now that she had married this guy, she's like, okay, maybe we can find love.
Hi,
She tries so
Megalodon.
hard,
How
and
are
at
you?
first, it was kind of cute. He's cooking. He's always in the kitchen. And she thought he always seemed mature. He had a provider mindset, right? But then slowly, after she saw the head in the fridge, and even just a little bit before, there were these little red flags that she would see. He kept telling her, after the head, that he bought her. He didn't say he married her. He said he bought her. That she was his, and he could return her or do whatever else he wanted with her because she belonged to him. He also talked a lot about his little sister, and the words that he used made Lucy very uncomfortable. He would call Cece, quote, not a good thing. He always talked about how promiscuous she was and how it disgusted him, how she had fallen to drinking, and now she's gone. And Lucy's like, oh, what happened to your sister? I used to live with her, but now she's missing. Did you report her missing? No. Lucy remembered trying to bring up Cece again and again, and she's like, okay, if your sister is missing, no matter how much you disagree with her lifestyle, you still have to report her missing because that's basic human decency, right? But Fang refused. He yelled at her to stay out of it, don't stick her nose in where it doesn't belong, and know her place, basically.
There's less
So
than
that,
10
with
minutes
the head,
left.
I
We can
mean,
get through
she's in
this,
Taiwan,
guys.
she's got no friends, no one to trust. It felt like Fang would just kill her too if he knew that she knew about what he did. Even if he suspected that she knew, her life was in danger. So she waited a few weeks to come up with a believable lie that her family member died and she had to go back for the funeral. She managed to escape to her family, but she had
Good
zero
God.
proof of what she saw. And at that point, she's like, he's probably gotten rid of the head. Even when she was telling her family about it, some people were looking at her like she lost her mind. I mean, there was no way that the police were going to believe her, and if they investigated without convicting Fang, she would have a big target on her back.
True.
She knows he would have killed her too. She knows it, even if she never saw the head. Because now, after learning about all of this, Lucy said, after moving to Taiwan, he kept bringing her to all these life insurance companies trying to get life insurance on her. And they all said, we can't because she's not a permanent resident of Taiwan yet. So she can't have life insurance here. She can have it in mainland China, but not here. At least not right now. And she said Fang seemed really disappointed. And she's like, well, I don't have plans on dying anytime soon. I'm in my 20s.
Oh, she's only 20s.
Yeah. And Fang said, the aliens made him do it. Okay, let me explain.
What?
Yeah, so the police go in to arrest Fang, Cece's own biological brother, and authorities thought, this guy is sick and twisted, we don't know what he's been doing, he might try to use force, he might try to fight back and get violent, so they blindside him, sneak up in the apartment building, kick down the door, slam him up against the walls, handcuff him, and Fang did not fight. He actually went limp, like a rag doll. It was odd. And then they heard this, like, trickle noise, and he had peed himself.
Oh
So the
my
four
God.
officers, they had to carry him out. He apparently couldn't even walk anymore. It was a lot. There was just people behind him. But still, being officers, they're thinking, oh, easy peasy. This guy's gonna confess so quickly, right? He's got no backbone. He's already so terrified. He knows he's screwed. But when they sit him down in the interrogation room, it's like he's a different person. They're like, where was that guy in the car just 2 seconds ago? He's calm, collected. He either stayed silent and gave the officers nothing, or he deflected all the questions. He even calmly threatened to file complaints against the police for coercion. So imagine arresting someone, they're peeing themselves because they're so scared.
Welcome
They've
back. I'll
seemingly
have
lost
crazy.
all bodily functions. But then a minute later, they're in the interrogation room, smelling of urine, and they're saying, officer, you shouldn't ask questions like that. According to Criminal Code 97...
Yeah, what's up with that? Like,
Yeah. They think that he was probably putting on a show when he was arrested.
for what reasons?
To make it seem like he's mentally unwell.
I see.
So ultimately...
That's even more sick and twisted that he peed himself just to fake whatever. Wow.
Because before he was arrested, he went to a psychiatrist and asked them to diagnose him with a mental disorder. And they were like, do you have a mental disorder? Ultimately, the prosecutors had a lot going for them. The wife's testimony, neighbor's testimony, the forensic evidence, the CCTV footage. Side note about the CCTV footage, the police were also able to find more footage closer to Fang's apartment that showed the same figure. So basically, they were able to track him. Like, not completely, but pretty good. Also, the CCTV shows Fang bringing Cece's head to the temple 2 days before the head was found. Meaning for 2 full days, locals, tourists, temple goers had used that restroom not knowing that there was a head there. And side note about this, Fang said that he was anxious after placing the head in the bathroom, not for the reasons that you would think though. Like he just killed his sister, disposed of her body in the most horrific way. Maybe he's scared of guilt, potentially even getting caught. But no, he said he was anxiously checking the news for 2 days because he was worried that he was terrified.
That they wouldn't know it's her.
No, that someone would just throw it away without checking.
Yeah, exactly. He wants
wants
this to be known. So
the
he
insurance.
can get his money.
Exactly. And he's like, then it would be a headache. I'd have to wait 7 years to get the insurance payout. So even with all of this out in the open, Fang's like, I'm not going to go down without a fight. He starts pretending to be insane in the courtroom, collapsing, waking up and saying, the aliens are here. They've implanted a chip in my brain and the aliens have controlled me.
Yikes.
He would pretend to cry and say, the aliens made me kill my sister. They controlled me to commit these acts and I remember it, I don't want to remember it. They manipulated me. They want me to end my life so I can't speak the truth. And then the court would be out of session because they're like, this man is unhinged, go put him in his cell, right? The minute he gets in his cell, he turns around, he's cool, calm, collected, and he starts bragging to his cellmates about his murder. Yeah, and then the next day, he'd be dragged back into court, drooling, collapsing, showing reports from the psychiatrist that deemed him mentally ill before he was even arrested. Because remember what I said? It's like he had this insurance plan that if he does get arrested,
That's
he could just plead insanity.
crazy.
He's like, look, I've got all the reports. Professional examinations after his arrest revealed Fang to be mentally sound and fit to stand trial. But Cece's mom and Fang's mom stood by Fang.
What?
She said that it was probably a mental breakdown. She testified that their family does have a history of hereditary mental disorders, and she begged the judge to not give the death penalty to Fang. She said, I already lost a daughter. Please spare my son. I miss my daughter very much, but at this point, what else can I do? I hope the judges can forgive Fang and give him another chance. And she argued her son is a good son. He's never done anything bad before.
That's crazy. I wonder if there's a level of like son versus daughter, you know, how the traditional view.
In the end, Fang was sentenced April 30th, 2015. He was facing the death penalty, but the judges did take his mom's pleas into consideration. They gave him life imprisonment instead. And netizens were really confused on how to feel about this, right? Some netizens just felt sad. They said, we feel sad for Cece, we feel sad for the mom, for the situation. And they asked the question, what parts of Cece did her brother kill before he finally killed her physically? If he had been assaulting her, forcing her to do sex work, like, this was not a fast kill. He was probably killing her slowly for over a decade. But other people felt like the mom doesn't know what she's talking about, and the court should not have listened to her. They said, do you think a respectful son, like the mom claims, would kill his own sister for insurance money? Others wondered, any mother who's them, they would hate and despise the killer with all their heart. But when they realize that the killer is their own son, do they still hate and despise as much? I don't know. What do you think of the question? Leave it in the comments. I mean, let me know all your thoughts in the comments. I read most of the comments. I'm always looking down there. And I'm just very interested in this case because I imagine, like, the feeling of she's got this intense hatred for whoever did this to her daughter, and then to find out it was her son.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Can you imagine?
Does something change? Does that hatred suddenly dim down? Like, what happens? Or is it a different kind of pain? Does that hatred turn into sorrow? I'm not a parent, so it's really hard for me to, like, even imagine. So parents out there, please leave it in the comments. But please stay safe, and I will see you guys on Sunday for the mini-sode. Bye.
Bada bing, bada boo.
Have you ever had kimchi before?
Oh yeah, every day.
Oh,
so kimchi is like the holy grail in terms of Korean cuisine. I mean, we eat this side dish.
I can't listen to that one again. That one was just as bad as the cat. That fucking cat one had me fucked up. Yeah, poster plots. Man. What's up, Shyam? How are you? Hey, what's good? Well, this is yeah, sorry. I was just doing something. The chicks are hypnotic. It's almost 2-1. Yeah. The ticks that you hear, it's like this little dancing Santa thing. It's like, yeah, it's a solar powered or light powered because it's just under a light and it's working. So I don't know. He's always dancing. Glad the other ones aren't too. His beard hits his outfit. Yeah, it's still solar. Yeah, that's crazy work. It's just this little dancing Santa. Yeah, so basically it's just like this little like solar panel. He's like this tall and he's not yeah, I don't know how to explain this. Uh we have like a few of them and we just keep them up there. I don't know. It's like things that like dead people in my family had. It's like a dancing Santa. Can we see? You cannot. You guys ask for too much. This is this little dancing Santa. He's just shaking his head. No, fuck you guys. Yeah, Patty is Steve. Yeah, you guys aren't asking for foot pics. That's true. That is true. Yeah, feet are weird. You're going to school. That's awesome. It is a real tattoo. All my tattoos are real. I have 30 of them. I'm just wearing my hoodie right now. So, well, my jacket is, I mean, it's down. I'm not really wearing it much, but it's keeping my arms warm. So that's what's important. I'm cold as fuck. Guys, my lip is still numb. What do I do about this? Tell me what I do. What do I do? What do I do? It is several days. It's been over a week. It's been a week and like 3 days now. Why is it numb? Because I fell asleep and I was like hella depressed and shit, and like then like my boyfriend called me and I jumped up real fast. And I was like excited and shit, and like I don't know, there was like a hair in my eye and my lip was numb. I don't know what happened. I think I'll be alright. I think it'll come back eventually. I slumbered. Nah, my gum is fine. It's my lip. It's like from here to here. Yeah, it's about right there. Is Santa hoovering? Yes, he's just this beard hitting his coat. It hits his arm. That's what that ticking sound is. Damn, I can't breathe for shit. Oh my god, my back hurts, y'all. I think I'm gonna hop off stream, you guys. I'll be back here in just a little bit. I'm gonna just get some well-needed movement to my body. Thanks, Drop. Yeah, my back's just be hurting. But alright, guys, I'll be back in a bit. Bye.